Yeah.
Anything in particular that's important to you guys out here to
Nothing like, not one of them sticks out that it's like more important than the others. I think we've had some, listen to some coaches talk and some GMs talk this morning and yesterday just about kind of asking questions because this is really the first time we get to look at them. We get an email, a couple days ago with them all in there, and then it's kind of like decision-making time. So we'll just take our time and kind of talk through it tonight and before we have to vote at the end of the week.
you guys have a position on the overtime rule?
Oh, not yet. We're gonna, like I said, we just honestly get the rules proposal a couple days ago, so we kind of listen to everything, then we kind of meet as a group later on before we actually have to vote. So there's a lot of different ones. I think the competition committee does a great job of kind of narrowing it down for us because they kind of take some of the ones that are submitted by the teams and they kind of edit them that kind of take everything into account. So we'll just kind of see how it goes here in the next couple days.
Same with the 4th and 15 rule too, as a non-starting kick.
Yeah, that was a team proposal. So that's one that we are. There's been a lot of conversation about that, just to kind of see like how it would work and what. A big thing with the rules for me are the unintended consequences. That like it sounds great on paper and you talk it through, and then all of a sudden they implement it for a year, and then stuff happens like the celebration rule. Like that happened last year, but now you have 30 guys running down the end zone to take a picture. Like that really wasn't the intent of the thing. They wanted, they wanted the players to have a little bit more fun doing things, but like, that just takes up the pace of play. So you have different angles of the league trying to get to different things about how the rule might change. But then a year into the rule, they're like, oh, I never thought that might happen. So that's some things we're just trying to talk through.
So this is the first time that you guys just see free agents.
Yeah.
Obviously, it seemed like you guys targeted some pretty specific people. Maybe you could just explain, why those guys fit your system, what
Yep.
you liked about them, what they do, I guess, how they improve your roster.
Yeah, I think we set out with a plan in free agency to kind of improve all aspects of the team, and the guys that we talked about and signed the first couple of days were important pieces. With Trey Flowers being the first guy, scheme fit, culture fit, great player, great person. Feel he's going to be able to be a 3-down player for us and really increase that level of play across the defensive line, play multiple positions. So that was a guy we targeted obviously, and it was. There was mutual interest, obviously, because he had familiarity with some of us, and it was, hopefully it's a good fit. He's a great kid that works hard, so we're excited about having him on the team. And Jesse James, tight end from Pittsburgh, another guy that can, versatile guy that can block, he can catch, he can run routes. Another tall target that we obviously like at the tight end position. The more length at that position, usually bigger catch radius, bigger red zone threat. So that's something that we try to improve on. And tight end was not a real big, strong position for us last year, as we all talked about after the season. And this is one area that we wanted to improve on. And Jesse was a guy that we kind of honed in on early in the process. And then and Justin Coleman's a nickel corner who, he has position versatility and knows the scheme and played well in the last couple of years in Seattle. And it was a good fit. So.
The other tight end, the second wave you signed, how much did you look at him coming out as a quarterback and look at his combine results and match him up with the tight ends of that draft? He's right up there at the top in terms of his versatility and athleticism.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a very good athlete, Logan. We actually had him on our practice squad for I think it was like a day, right?
Yeah.
And maybe not even a day.
Buffalo Saturday night.
Yeah, and Buffalo came after him. We tried. I remember having him in my office trying to convince him to stay on our practice squad, but usually 99% of those go the other way. But that was, when he was really first transitioning to tight end, and we saw a lot of things. We worked him out as a tight end. I think it was 2016, right? It was 2016, like October, November 2016. I always kind of circled back and watched him over the last couple of years in Buffalo, and thought it was a good, second wave guy to kind of add depth to that position. And we don't think he's kind of hit his ceiling. We think he's, still got some room to improve at, both in the run and pass game.
With Justin, he played, correct me if I'm wrong, when he was in New England, he played a lot outside for you guys, obviously played inside in Seattle. Is that what you liked about him? The position versatility?
Yep.
Where do you see him more
Yep.
with you, or is that undecided?
Yep, position versatility for sure is key. He did play both outside and inside in New England during my time there. Primarily the last 2 seasons in Seattle, he played inside. I'd say going forward, he's probably more inside than outside. But, we're going to kind of go through the process and kind of see how he fits within the group. Because we have, I'd say, a lot of players that have that inside-outside flexibility on our team at the corner position. So we're going to put them all out there in the off season and training camp and figure out where guys are going to play.
You mentioned the culture fit with Trey.
Yeah.
How big was it to get, I guess, a second wave of culture in to, I guess, continue Matt's implementation of what he's trying to get going here?
Yeah, I think first and foremost it's about the players and how they play on the field. The culture part of it was important to us. It's something that we feel strongly about because this league's tough and it's a couple plays every game. So if we can have guys that are know what to expect in terms of the scheme, the philosophy, it's kind of the message gets down to everybody in the roster a little bit easier. So something we were conscious of, but I think, like I said, number one is what they do on the field and what they can really give us on a day in and day out basis.
He was probably the most prized free agent out there, certainly one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just walk us through your process of landing him?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you had a lot of suitors out there. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's my process in free agency is, once we get to like around September, I start looking at the list and you kind of start, highlighting guys and you start, you can't watch every single free agent that's going to be up during the course of October, November. So kind of prioritize that for myself. And I make sure my staff watches everybody because our needs change. Our needs change every week, right? One week you might need a defensive tackle. 3 weeks later, that's not as much of a priority because you get snacks in a trade and everything kind of switches. So that's ever changing. So my staff does a great job. My pro scouting staff does a great job of utilizing their time to get everyone evaluated. Then I kind of have my own priority list that I go through and I watch throughout the season to make sure I'm up to date on how those guys are playing. And then once you get to the off season, it's you prioritize, you make a plan, and then the negotiation period opens after the combine, and you talk to the agent and you see if there's mutual interest, and that's kind of how it works. It's a nerve-wracking time, obviously, because you think deals happen and deals get backed out of, and I feel fortunate with the guys that we signed that they really wanted to be here. Like the agents made that clear, and when they finally get the players in the building that night and the next morning, it was very evident that those guys were excited to be there, and they really believed in what we're talking about and wanted to be part of the Lions.
What's the reaction? What's
worth the money? Why were
Say again?
those guys worth the money? Like Trey's one of the highest paid defensive
Yeah.
players in the game.
Because he's a great player. He's a three-down player, position versatility, affects the quarterback, affects the run game, knows the technique, knows the scheme. So those guys are in free agency. There's not a lot of sure bets in free agency. Certain years you can be more aggressive than others. And I think, with the money that we paid those guys, the contracts speak to what we think of them, and I think they can help us win games. And that's the bottom line is we want to get as many players in to our team and our scheme that can help us win more. And that's my goal.
What's the reaction though when that comes through? Is that just a walk down to Matt's office and a high five, or can you take me into the reaction of
Yeah.
you pull a guy like that you targeted, you obviously wanted
Yeah.
to get him? What's that like?
No, it's exciting. Of course it is. It's adding a really good player. I think that's not just for Trey Flowers. That's for everybody we sign. There's a reason why we sign them, right? So we're excited about all the players. Just like in the draft, you're excited about all the guys you draft. But yeah, it's a little bit of a high five. It's a pat on the back. It's like, all right, what's the next thing to do? Because in free agency, there's always like, what's the next shoe to drop? And you want to make sure you're not missing out on other opportunities. So you celebrate for a quick minute, and then you're on to the next thing.
There was that story in Sports Illustrated with agents telling Sports Illustrated that Detroit was one of the 5 least desirable destinations for free agents. But it sounds like maybe that wasn't your experience. I mean,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on that, and just how much the guys you talk to want to play here or not?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. Someone showed me that article, and it is what it is. They wrote it. I don't believe it. You can ask our players what they think about it. But I know, the guys we targeted, they wanted to come to Detroit, so I feel really good about that.
You mentioned last offseason how you kind of tried to be aggressive at tight end.
Yeah.
And didn't really have any luck. Did that change
Sure.
how you approach Jesse or just that position at all?
Not really. I think what I've always said in my philosophy in free agency is you got to set a value on the player, and you got to have a range of where you feel comfortable contract-wise, and you have to look at all the comps, but you also have to play the market and kind of see what that current year is doing. And so this year, I think, his contract is, there's a couple that were a little bit higher than his, and he's probably up there with the whatever top. I'm not sure what Cook's going to come in at. That one hasn't been official yet. but I think there's a few that came in a little above him. So you just got to really know the market and kind of know that you might have to adjust a little bit. But going into free agency, you got to kind of set your parameters of what you think the value is to each player and try to stay in it as best you can, because otherwise you're really going to hurt the depth of the team when you can't afford guys later on in the process.
Do you think there's more to him passing wise?
Say again?
Do you think there's more to him as a receiver than maybe we saw in Pittsburgh because they were so skilled at some of the
Yeah, I mean they obviously had a good group of skill guys, and they had a tight end that was so-called their starter in Vance McDonald, who took a lot of the I'd say third down opportunities on away from Jesse. So yeah, we think he can do more. We think all our players can hopefully do more for us than they did for the teams that they've come from. So.
This is a quarterback question. How important is it? Would you like to build some real equity in the backup position there? Like, you did it with the Patriots over the years. The Packers used to do it with that whole gang of guys.
Sure.
And whether you draft one, number 8 or whatever it is, to really get somebody maybe quality backup, compete for whatever, however that develops, really get equity at that position.
Yeah, it's a position that's important, and I think it goes to trying to just make sure when the draft comes and free agency, you're trying to add the best available players at each position. And unfortunately, you guys understand like our salary situation at the quarterback position, it's up there. So there's only so much you can do in terms of signing a top end backup just with the salary that comes with that. But there's other avenues to get quarterbacks, and we're gonna look at all of them.
For example, if you hit on a mid-round draft pick, is that just sort of gold for a franchise?
Yeah, if you hit on a mid-round draft pick at any position, it's gold because they're cost controlled for 4 years. So, but you can say that for quarterback or any position across the board.
Same sort of line of question. Do you have all 30 of your visits scheduled?
We do not. Nope.
Are you planning on bringing in the top 3 quarterbacks, Kyler, Haskins?
We're not going to give out who we're bringing into. We never have done that. I'm not starting there this year.
Couple salary cap.
We work out you guys know we work out a ton of players at all different positions. So.
Well, can you just explain maybe then why, obviously you guys did some work on those guys at the combine, but why is it important to, regardless of what your intentions are at number 8, to make sure you're doing all the work you need to on Kyler, on Haskins, on those top quarterbacks?
Yeah, we do it every year on all the quarterbacks and all the positions. There's only a set amount of interviews that we can do in our formal interviews, as they call them, at the combine, and then but our coaches talk to basically everybody at the combine. So to pinpoint why we talk to so and so, it's just a matter of scheduling and what you can get from the league when you submit the names you want on interview.
A couple salary cap questions. You guys have done a good job of keeping a lot of space open despite making several big signings. I just wondered if there's a reasoning you guys have kept so much space open for this year, and then 2, with Okwara and Jesse James's contracts, you have that voidable year at the end. I just wondered what the logic is with some of those deals.
The salary cap, I'm not going to get into a ton of detail of why we do certain things. I would say you have to look at the salary caps situation in a 2 or 3 year lens. You can't just look at, all right, this is the 2019 Detroit Lions salary cap. When you structure deals, you have to look at it over a 2 to 3 year period, or you can set yourself up for failure 2 years from now. So that's kind of why some of those things that we had to do that you guys look up is the reason why we had to do those things and why we feel like we did. And then the voidable years just kind of basically they spread out the signing bonus. That's the main reason.
I know Stacks came to you about a contract extension. How much interest do you guys have in getting something done for this offseason?
It's something that I got to talk to Drew this week and going into the future. Something that's really not something that I need to do right now. Something that my priority right now is the draft. We've got another month or so before the draft is here, so that's something that we'll probably talk about May or June.
One more, guys. Just how active were you involved with Antonio, Odell, those trade talks?
Yeah, I'm not getting into how much we were involved or not involved in any of those, but we were in a lot of different markets over the course of March. So. Yeah, that's something we have to decide upon. I think it's about a week after the draft, so that's like a May 7th deadline. So we'll just work. Yeah, no decision yet.
Yeah, how much did you accomplish? How much that you accomplished in free agency will impact or change or modify what you do in the draft?
Yeah, some. Yeah, some. I think you try to fill as many holes as possible. During free agency, you can't fill them all, and that just kind of helps you prioritize what you need in the draft. So, Chris, I know you've been patient back there.
Yeah, just curious about the Malcolm Brown offer.
Yeah. Yep.
What went into the numbers, or why the decision to go after him?
Yeah, he's a guy though. he's really the type of player that we were interested in adding to the running back room. Thought he was young. Thought he was at that cost that we tried to get him for was going to be very reasonable for what we can fit into our budget at that spot. And it's something that's you roll the dice a little bit, honestly, and because you don't know if they're going to match or not, and you try to structure a deal that might be a little bit hard for them to do, but you really don't know because you think you know their situation looking at paper, but they have other things moving on behind the scenes that they can move around. So we took a shot at it, didn't work out, but it's it's something that he's a good player, and we thought he could definitely help us. So.
Hey guys, you guys hear anything Hard Knocks yet?
I have not. No, you guys will probably hear before me.
All Raiders jokes aside.
Yeah.
You guys don't want anything to do with that.
I'll pass on. Pass on all that.